Precision bombing is the direct result of a strict observance of combat bombing procedure. When correct procedure is ignored or forgotten, accuracy suffers. As proof of this statement, let's look at some of the details of a certain authentic bombing mission. For obvious reasons, names, places, and other specific information must remain secret. But the general story goes something like this. Late in the spring of 1943, this particular mission was planned to bomb an oil refinery. The target area included all buildings and, of course, the oil storage tanks. The strategic aiming point, however, was the pumping station. For by wiping out the heart of the refinery, the entire production of the field could be tied up for many months. There were 7 planes in the flight. It was assumed, of course, that every bombardier knew his job and was equipped to meet any emergency that might arise. Just before the flight reached the target area, however, the lead bombardier discovered a malfunction in the sight. At a signal, the second ship swung into position. This bombardier discovered he had left his target folder and bombing tables in the briefing room at the base. The lead was then turned over to the wingman. The wingman never thought he'd be in this spot, so he hadn't paid much attention to the briefing details. As a result, the flight had no choice but to go into the bombing run and trust to luck. All ships got their bombs away, and all bombs fell in the target area. The oil tanks were totally destroyed, but the strategic aiming point, the vital pumping station, was left untouched. The raid was obviously not completely successful, and repeat missions were necessary to finish the job. A definite combat bombing procedure has been developed to avoid such unsatisfactory raids. The purpose of this film will be to show how procedure has been broken down into 5 separate phases: preparation, pre-flight, after takeoff, bombing altitude, and target area. And also to outline and explain the various steps in each phase. Phase 1 will be that period in the mission which follows immediately after briefing. You will have taken your equipment into the briefing room with you. Now, with the session over, your first job will be to check this equipment and make sure that everything is present and accounted for. Inspect your combat kit, and with your mind full of briefing details, it is bad policy to trust to memory. Use a checklist. Your kit should contain an E6B computer, a C2 computer, tachometers, a complete combat folder containing primary and alternate targets and photos, tables for bombs loaded, paper and pencil, a pen light for night missions, a Combat 12C form, the correct A.B.C tangent scale clip calibrated for bombs loaded, a gun, and a stopwatch. Now is the time also to check your combat folder and see that all briefing details have been properly noted. Your combat folder must contain, first, target photos with vital aiming points properly located. Second, a sectional chart and target maps with the initial point indicated on each. The initial point should be indicated in miles and time from target. It is important that checkpoints leading to the initial point be correctly located on all maps. They represent the necessary steps by which you will be guided to the initial point and to the target. And finally, on the target maps, the magnetic heading for the bombing run should be indicated, and checkpoints on this heading should be marked. Anticipating conditions of poor visibility over the target area, pinpoints are established to be used as offset aiming points. The combat folder must also contain this necessary data. With all these details carefully checked, you should now apply your metro data to your C2 computer. First, set in pressure elevation of target, Next, subtract this figure from indicated altitude to be flown. This will give you pressure altitude above target, which you will set up on the black scale of the computer. Final computations will be made when bombing altitude is reached. This concludes your preparatory work, and you leave for the ship. Phase 2 is the pre-flight period. Procedure in the ship has been planned so that equipment is checked in logical sequence. First, you will inspect the bombs. See that the shackle releases in the A2 are properly set. Check the arming wires and fuse spinners. Check safety pins. Inspect fuses. And examine fins for alignment and dents. And finally, before leaving the bomb bay, see that the bomb bay switches are in the on position. On your way forward, set the pilot's altimeter to normal. And then, in your own compartment, make the same adjustment. Next, see that the rack arming lever is in the locked position, and after checking for all clear, close the bomb bay doors. Check your oxygen supply. Now, before beginning the pre-flight inspection of your site, see that the auxiliary power plant is turned on. The importance of a careful site check cannot be overemphasized. Make your inspections thorough and exact. Begin by checking all connections to see that the site is properly installed. Next, check PDI reaction. Pay particular attention to the following 4 steps, which will directly affect the impact point of your bombs. 1. Check the clutches to see that they are free in the unclutched position. 2. See that the extended vision knob is in the normal position. 3. Check for roller slippage. And 4, check for positive or negative trail settings. The final step in Phase 2 will be to check the A.B.C. computer and see that the wind speed scale and wind arrow are properly aligned. Phase 3 begins when your ship is in the air. At cruising altitude, you will help the pilot set up the autopilot. First, zero the stabilized brush to center the PDI and hold it with the locking solenoid until the pilot trims the ship and places it on automatic pilot. You will then engage the secondary clutch. You will further aid the pilot by making sector panel turns for turn compensation adjustments. Remember, however, before making sector panel turns, to first remove the turn control stop. This stop is used only in formation flying and will limit banks to 12 degrees. Now, as the ship starts its climb to bombing altitude, be sure the stabilizer is level. Also, see that the pins are pulled to arm the bombs. With the ship at bombing altitude, you will determine true airspeed using your E6B computer. And then, using this true airspeed, you will compute for mean temperature, which will be placed on the C2 computer to determine pressure altitude over the target. Applying the resultant figures to the bombing data on the A.B.C. tangent scale clip or to the bombing tables, you will determine correct disk speed and trail setting and then make the proper setup in the site. Remember to check the disk speed with your tachometer. When the ship has reached flight conditions similar to those over the target area, notify the pilot that you intend to make a dry run. Prepare the A.B.C. computer by first making sure the secondary clutch is engaged and the directional clutch disengaged. Then see that the stabilized brush is on 0. Now check the E6B for true airspeed and set this true airspeed in the A.B.C. Next, make your dry run. When drift is established and the sight is synchronized for rate, set drift and tangent information into the A.B.C. Adjust the computer's compass rose to the attack heading. Read wind direction and wind velocity. Note corrected drift and tangent readings, and set the A.B.C. data into the sight. At the finish of the presetting operation, be sure to return the compass rose to the ship's present course. You are now ready to predetermine your time of run by using the following procedure. First, locate the time of fall by consulting the proper tangent scale on the A.B.C. or find it on the bombing tables. Now, the sight having been synchronized for rate, we know that the telescope will travel from the tangent point of closure to 0 during the bomb's time of fall. Read the number of tangent units as indicated by the rate index on the sight and divide the time of fall by this figure. You will thus find the number of seconds required for the telescope to travel through 1 tangent unit. Divide this figure into the desired length of run to find the correct starting position for the telescope. The telescope, in this case, will be set 3 3/4 units below the point of closure. At this point, it is a good policy to check the preset data. You will, of course, further recheck all settings as often as time will permit. Upon reaching the target area, consult your maps. Carefully spot all checkpoints and familiarize yourself with the exact location of the aiming point. Note the weather conditions to determine if your objective can be bombed or if an alternate target must be used. Now begin to pick up your checkpoints. The navigator can help you identify them and establish their relationship to the initial point and to the target. About 10 minutes before reaching the initial point, you will take over the ship. Before making your first evasive turn, you will see that both the secondary and directional clutches are disengaged. Operate the turn control slowly and steadily. As you roll out of the turn, and when the stabilized brush has reached 0, re-engage the secondary clutch. In all evasive action, remember that you are being followed by a large formation, so make your turns smoothly and easily. Hold each turn for 5, 10, or 15 seconds. And stay on a straight course for no less than 10 seconds and no more than 30 seconds. Keep the long legs of your evasive action upwind and the short legs downwind to prevent drifting away from your planned attack heading. Break up degree and time of turn so that your course cannot be predicted by the enemy. After you have come out of your first turn, check your sight data. Check the trail setting and the disk speed. Note the A.B.C. readings. Turn on the intervalometer and check the intervalometer settings. It should be time to make another turn. disengage the secondary clutch, and in coming out of the turn, clutch in again. Now make a final careful check on your target maps and photos. If weather conditions require it, locate the position of the target by checking your pinpoints. Disengage the secondary and make another turn. Always follow the same procedure as you come out. Complete your turn and re-engage the secondary. Now, open the bomb bay doors. When you reach the initial point, you will make a turn of approximately 90 degrees. After disengaging the secondary, employ a bank of about 9 or 10 degrees. As you roll out, follow the usual procedure with the secondary and the PDI. Now, note the position of the A.B.C. compass rose and check for precession by consulting the magnetic compass. Then make any necessary adjustment in the compass rose. Next, make a check dry run. First, note the clutch positions and make sure that the secondary clutch is engaged, the directional clutch disengaged. Now clutch in the telescope. Roll the optics to a point near the top of the quadrant. Look into the sight and check for drift and synchronization of rate. With this operation completed, unclutch the telescope and roll the optics back to the pre-time position. Now make another turn. After you've straightened out and with the stabilized brush on 0 and the secondary engaged, allow a few seconds for bubble wash to settle. Then level the gyro. Make this a good level. Take your time. Now another turn. When you straighten out on this new heading, go through another check dry run. Make another turn, and then, when you've straightened out, turn on all switches and set the rack lever to select. With the sight unclutched, swing the sight head, and using extended vision, pick up the target in the optics. As soon as you get the target in the crosshairs, start to roll out the extended vision. Make another evasive turn, and when you come out of it, check the level of the bubbles. And continue to roll out extended vision. Make another turn. Remember to vary the degree and time of turns in your evasive action. After coming out of this one, again note the position of the bubbles. Level if necessary. Roll out all extended vision. And be sure that it is all rolled out. Feel the knob actually click to normal. Now, with the target directly in the crosshairs, clutch in the telescope. Next, set the predetermined drift for the attack heading into the sight. Disengage the secondary clutch and make a turn into the bombing run. As you roll into your final run-up, sight over the cross trail bar. When the target falls exactly in line, engage the directional clutch. Now, set the trigger and check the position of the target in the optics. Hold the target in the crosshairs by double gripping the course knobs to refine your drift. Refine the rate with small adjustments. And as the indices meet, bombs are away. Immediately check compass heading, bubble position, Now cage the gyro and return control to the pilot. Close the bomb bay doors. Now record all vital data. Be sure to include bubble position, heading, drift, tangent, wind direction and velocity, and the time. You will later get airspeed and altitude from the co-pilot. And record all information on your 12C form. Get photos if possible. Make your report accurate to the last detail, for it will be the only means of analyzing your bombing results. And the information contained in your report will prove of great value in planning future missions. Combat procedure, laid out in its 5 phases, is designed to get you to the target, equipped to do your job. Precision bombing is never accidental. Direct hits on vital objectives can be made only through every bombardier's careful attention to the smallest detail in the bombing procedure. Remember that mission accomplished today means one less trip tomorrow.